Welcome to In All Honesty, the podcast where we get real about life and all the problems that come with it. I'm Michelle Elman, and I'm that friend who we all know is a little bit too honest. You might not come to me when you get back together with your ex, but I'll be there for you when it all goes tits up. Welcome back to In All Honesty, and this week's guest, honestly, I actually can't believe it. Paul Brunson, your new show, just congratulations, but just like the biggest congratulations in the world, because you've done the thing that I've been pitching for years, which is dating shows don't need to be manufactured fights and dramas, but can actually be so full of heart, wholesome. I mean, it's very strange to call a show Cheat, Unfinished Business. Let's put the title in. And then also be like, it's wholesome. But the thing is, it's because you're rooting for very real people, going through very real heartbreak, and there is nothing malicious or manufactured in it, because you can tell every single person there is rooting for everyone to come out of the situation in their best version. It doesn't necessarily mean stay. I mean, there's even a point in the show where you're like, there's the door.
Right, there it is.
But I think that's why I use the word wholesome, is because it's like, there's no sensationalized aspect of it. It's just the true, raw, beautiful emotion that happens around infidelity.
Yes. First, can I say, that is such a blessing to hear you describe the show that way. And I think people who have not watched it, right, will say, cheat, unfinished business, wholesome, what? Right? But they actually do go hand in hand. And to me, what is so profound about the project is that most dating or relationship formats focus on the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah.
When it's just forming. And I think as a result, that's why you will see some of that stunt producing, et cetera, manufacturing. But once you have a relationship, any relationship that is matured, 1 year, 2 year, 50 years, inherently, there's drama in that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's emotion. And what we do with Cheat is we're focused on a more mature relationship.
Yeah.
And what happens when you begin to explore these areas that oftentimes are considered gray?
But I also think it's how you selected the cast. It's like every person there wants something out of it that is genuine for the relationship itself. I think what shocked me when I first started it was, these aren't couples who are still together. These are couples who have ended it, in some cases have had no contact for months and years,
yes,
and are choosing to revisit it. And just for a little bit of context, I got engaged last year, and by announcing my engagement publicly online, I found out he was cheating on me, and I ended it within 24 hours.
Wow.
And I think why I have such deep respect for the contestants is because I had to go on this morning and address it because I was the life coach on the show and gave a lot of dating and relationship advice. But all the conversations I had with him were closed doors, sobbing, crying, and to even be able to air one of those conversations requires such a level of vulnerability that, like, honestly, kudos to every single contestant on this show.
Yeah. Well, one is my heart goes out to you.
Thanks.
Right? Because through this project, we explore how serious infidelity is, in particular for the betrayed.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that society doesn't treat those who have been betrayed well enough. I don't think there's enough support.
Well, let's get into that, because I do think there is an element of shame that comes on the betrayed. And one of the main things I was saying at the time is, like, the shame doesn't belong to me. I did all I could in this relationship. Sometimes the person cheats because of the relationship, and sometimes the person cheats because of the individual. And in my relationship, I believed I was in the happiest, healthiest relationship, and I believe he cheated because of him and his insecurity. But I think there's an automatic assumption. It happens a few times in the show where people insist, like, we were having good sex.
Right.
Like, we were having sex. This misconception that cheating is about sex at all.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really interesting way it's being unpicked in the show.
Yes. And that's what I love about the show, right? Is because it's nuanced. It's not, if you have bad sex, that means that you're going to cheat. Like, no, there's not that one-for-one correlation, right?
Yeah.
But research does show that there are certain things that happen in relationships that mean that there may be a higher likelihood that infidelity will happen. So, for example, if you're with a partner who's impulsive,
Oh, wow.
if you have low satisfaction, if you avoid conflict in the relationship, if you're with a narcissist, right? It's like, but you think about
Yeah.
it. Now add all of those. Impulsivity, right? Low
Yeah.
satisfaction, et cetera. You could see where the percentage goes up. But I think with infidelity, what we oftentimes don't realize is that every single person is impacted by infidelity.
Yeah.
Everyone. Whether you went through that, whether a friend has gone through that, a family member has gone through infidelity. And then also, if that happens, right, what do we say? We say, oh, you know what?
Better you know now. That's what I got
Exactly.
a lot of.
Better you know now, good luck to you.
Better the day after you got engaged than the day you got married.
See, there you go. And we're not treating it for the seriousness it is, which
Yeah.
is actually you have gone through trauma.
Betrayal trauma. Yeah.
Betrayal trauma, but to the point, but it's trauma. And trauma, and this is according to Julie Gottman, John Gottman, is that you now will have a level of PTSD. You will see life differently. You will become more hypervigilant. You will have challenges with your emotions. You will question self-worth. These are patterns that everyone who's gone through infidelity has. So if you've gone through that, and I just say, better luck next time, how is that holding space for you at all? It's not.
Absolutely. And also, I think there is a period of time about a month after the infidelity where everyone turns up, everyone shows up, and then life moves on. And we live in a world where we are very focused on the couple, the relationship, and my greatest heartbreak hit about 6 months later because of the shock.
Yes.
So with trauma, with PTSD, you don't process or feel anything for 3 months. I then had to do it in the media, so like even more so it was delayed. And then when it hit, everyone thought I should have moved on by then. But like, actually, it's such a long process. And a few of the couples within the show, like it's 10 years on, 3 years on, like a long time, and people are like, how are you still carrying this? And it's like, because it messes with your whole model of the world. It messes with the identity you have about yourself.
Yes.
And also, if I could have bet £1 million on anything, it would have been he was my safe guy. He was my safe space.
So you are, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, unfortunately, through the experience, right? Is that oftentimes we look at the act and we think that's the worst part of infidelity.
Yeah.
Oh, he had sex with someone else, or because remember, we're not even defining what infidelity is. It's different for other
Different
people.
boundaries.
But it's oftentimes not the act, it's the breaking of the trust.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. As a result of the breaking of the trust, you begin to then wonder, what was it me? Is it something about me? And you begin to question your space in the world. And so you see how significant infidelity is. And that's what I love about the project, is that you have many cheaters in the project who have no idea the consequence of their cheating. And they're able to learn that, not just through me or Amanda, but they're able to learn that through because we've actually made them live
But
with
more
others.
so because they have to sit in front of that person. I think so many times when someone cheats, I think there is an element of some cheaters where it's very much cowardice and cowardly, and they don't have to face the consequence of seeing someone hysterically bawling in front of them. Do you get what I mean? Where like either the relationship ends and then you don't need to have the conversation, or they're lying for so long that they never get the accountability of it.
Yeah, I mean, so you're referring to the reckoning rooms, right? Which are truly those were intimidating to even film, because you're right. You have the couples literally facing each other with fire in between. You have Amanda and I peering down at them, literally. But then you also have the couple who sat alongside their peers. And that's the point that I truly think is important, is that you have couples there who learn the pain through their partner. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But you also have those who learn the pain because they've befriended someone who they now live in the villa with.
Yeah.
And they realize, wow, look at what that person did to you.
Yeah.
And as a result, I can't believe I did that to someone who I confess to love. So the learning throughout this entire, throughout the show is incredible. They're learning from their peers, from their partners, and then obviously through Amanda and myself.
I think another piece of it is like, this isn't, thank God, I've been a life coach for 10 years. I had the training. I said I did the work before the crisis hit, so I was all good in terms of that, like as functional as a human probably could have been last year. But for me, it didn't rattle my self-esteem because I was like, it's not a reflection of my beauty. It's not a reflection of what I brought to the relationship, all of that element. But I think especially women have a tendency to self-blame of like, was I not a good enough girlfriend? Did I not have sex enough? Did I not have the kind of sex he wanted to have? And I do think there is a like media lens that piles that on.
Right.
And I think because of my narrative, because I'd publicly said that we were trying for a baby, I didn't get the sex shaming and I didn't get but a lot of it is this conversation of like men are entitled to sex and if you don't give it to them, they'll go elsewhere.
Right.
And I think this theme comes up a few times within the exchanges. So within the show, for people listening, within the show, the exes talk to what's the best way to explain it?
Yeah, the exchange, right?
Yeah.
It's where the it's where the partner is talking to, it could be themselves, it could be their partner, but it could be also someone else at the retreat, right?
And it's when the women are talking to each other that they were like, I was having good sex. Like, we were happy.
Yeah, I think this point, we do have to throw out the window, right? This whole notion of sex equates to a partnership where there won't be infidelity. And a matter of fact, quite honestly, most sex that couples are having in their relationship is low satisfaction sex anyway, right? So like
Because you have to love your body and you have to love yourself and be confident in your self-esteem to be able to even express yourself in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, well, the number one key with high satisfaction sex is emotional attachment. So the issue, and this is great research, Dr. Karen Gurney, who's here in the UK, is that if you don't have a strong emotional connection with your partner, you could do backflips all day long. You could oil yourself up with anything. And oil is not a good term to use anymore, but you can put Vaseline, you can do whatever you want to do. But if you don't have a strong emotional connection, the satisfaction is going to be low. And studies even show that in terms of short-term sex, so casual sex, for example, where you'll have people, and I mean, I've had friends who would say, oh, I'm getting it every night, blah, 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 blah. And you think, okay, it's all low quality.
Yeah.
It's all low satisfaction. If you want to have the highest level of the highest quality sex, you need to have a deep emotional connection.
Yeah, but I think it's much more, the misconceptions don't just stop around sex. It's also the misconception that any woman who's been cheated on was either in denial, ignored red flags, and actually I think there are a few examples in the show and also in my own life, and when you talked about how it impacts your whole world.
Yes.
The main thing my friends and family said was whenever I saw this story in the media, I would always think the woman was stupid. And the first time, knowing my ex-fiancé, knowing the people in my life and how much they all loved him, they were like, it's the first time I truly understand you could be 100% blindsided and have no clue. There were no signs unless a person DM'd me. And she was a fan of all my books, had read my dating book and everything, I wouldn't have found out. I think there's not enough conversation around, like, it's not for you to spot the like, absolutely be conscious, notice red flags, but there aren't always warning signs. And I think one of the questions a lot of people who go through infidelity get asked over and over again is like, what were the red flags? What are the warning signs? And there is a tipping point where it starts to sound like it's your responsibility to stop it and not their responsibility to not cheat.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is a deep question.
Yeah.
That you're posing, or a deep topic, because there's one argument that says a relationship, if it's a non-polyamorous relationship, it's between two people, and it is the responsibility of both partners.
Yeah.
And there's a varying degree of what that responsibility means.
Yeah.
So there's that argument. But then there's also the reality, and this is really, I think, what you're supporting is that sometimes we just have terrible partners.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that there's David Buss wrote the book Bad Boys, and it's a book that I always encourage people to read because what he proceeds to outline is it's not just bad boys but bad girls, right? Where you have roughly 11 to 15% of the population are what fits into what's called the dark tetrad. Narcissists, Machiavellians, sadists,
pathological liars,
and psychopaths.
Yeah.
And you think about this, and you think, oh yeah, it's a joke, blah 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 blah. No. If that is,
I lived it.
Yeah, I mean that means we all know someone who fits within that category, and if someone fits within that category, you could do everything quote unquote right, and they're still going to be an ass. They're still going to go out and do this.
And I think there needs to be room for this conversation because, like, as I said, I'm a life coach. I've been a life coach for a decade, but also me and my partner were in life coaching together because I believe, you know how in religion you have, you go to a pastor before you get engaged. I wanted to do that, but I'm not religious. So we did it with my life coach, talking about prenups, talking about kids, all of those things. So thank God I had my life coach to say, I've been a life coach for 50 years and I've never seen this. And she was like, I have never had my jaw on the floor. I knew this man too. And having that validity really helped me to not question my profession too, because I was like, how did I not see, like, hand on heart, did not see a thing. And I think the conversation of like being blindsided is that thing of like your whole world shatters. And the only way I could kind of frame it is you have to build yourself together again, piece by piece, and you're not going to be the same person.
No, and I think that's the silver lining and the beauty from infidelity.
Yeah.
Is that you will never be the same person.
Yeah.
But you could be a better version of yourself.
You talk about in the show how if you start again, you're basically starting a new relationship.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you brought this up because I think there's a lot of theory that says what you're trying to do when infidelity happens is you're trying to reconcile and put back the pieces.
Yeah.
And I say no. I think the stronger model is that you have to first learn to forgive each other.
Yeah.
Right? So that's essentially the atone piece. And then attune is when you are learning to build something new.
Yeah.
Because you are with a different person now.
Yeah.
You're with a person that has a different set of skills. So let's not try to rebuild. Let's try to build something better. Not anything on a faulty foundation, right? And that's that second part. And the third part, by the way, in terms of what we do at the retreat is then we focus on the attachment. But in essence, I love to look at it as you're building something new and you're building something better.
Do you think there are telltale signs in whether someone is going to be able to change?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Can you give a few to the audience listening?
Number one is effort.
Yeah.
Like so actually, effort is the number one indicator that I look at with regard to whether a relationship will quote unquote work. So whether there will be high satisfaction. And when I say effort, I say, okay, if you want to go to therapy and you ask your partner and they say, no, I don't do that, that's indicative of effort. Let's pick up this book and read this book together. Let's listen to this podcast and have a discussion about it. Can we do date night? Whatever.
See, I call that curiosity. If someone has no curiosity about who they are and their understanding and how they work, they won't understand why they cheated.
Right. But if there's no effort, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is there's no interest in you or the relationship. But most of us, not most of us, but actually the numbers would say most of us, just allow that to happen. Right, with no consequence. The consequence should be then the removal of yourself, right, from that situation, or therapy, etc. But my point, though, is that if there's no effort, that is a telltale sign that there's going to be low satisfaction in the relationship. And you see that happen time and time again with the couples at the retreat.
I think also, for me, one of my telltale signs is, are they lying to you? Because infidelity is lying and cheating and betrayal and all of that. But are they lying to you or are they lying to themselves? Because actually, and it happens in the show where there's one person who forgets they cheated. The only way for that to happen is they've compartmentalized their life so much and actually had to tell themselves, I'm a good person, I didn't actually do that. That, to me, has always been red flag, for lack of a better term, of like, you're still lying to yourself. So unless you can actually be truthful with yourself, there is no chance for anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that moment that you bring up is a controversial moment, because some people would say that person truly didn't realize what had happened, or perhaps didn't even consider it as an infidelity.
Yeah.
Whereas others would say, "Come on, this is an infidelity." But it does read to what is infidelity, because you said it's lying, right? We have I think a significant debate, a healthy debate, at the retreat as to what does infidelity mean, because that in itself is a gray area.
True. I mean, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. But finally, to anyone listening who is trying to rebuild and how to either trust themselves or trust their new partner, what would be the number one tip that you would give them?
Watch Cheat. Seriously. No, I'm so serious.
Yeah.
Like, watch it with your partner, have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Right? If that alone could save your relationship.
How can they trust themselves then? Like, how can they trust themselves to know that that the fear is it'll happen again, right? Yeah. So how can they trust themselves that they know enough to do things differently next time?
Yeah, you may never.
That's
why you have to show up every day. That's why you have to show up every day. I've been married for 23 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's just
something can't happen.
Yeah, like it's a cakewalk and I can just stop, affirming my wife. No, it means I'd have to show up and put in the effort every day.
Thank you so much. I adored the show. I can't wait to watch the next 4 episodes. I watched the first 4.
Yeah, you're ready.
But I'm ready. The moment it drops, I'm there. But I genuinely, hand on heart, like, all props to you. You've created an amazing show. The advice you're giving on the show is just perfect.
You know what? That is appreciated, especially coming from a peer, like a colleague. That is very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we will be back next Tuesday with a brand new one.